Thank you for joining us this morning. We're here, of course, at the Police Administration Building, where Chief Eddie Garcia is going to be telling us a bit about the San Jose Police Department's efforts. I just have really two very simple messages. First, it's important for all of us to stay home because it takes the pressure off our first responders to be out there having to interact with folks. We know that puts them at risk, and more importantly, it distracts them from the very important duties they have to keep us all safe and to keep us all healthy. And secondly, to encourage folks, if you see somebody that you believe is violating the stay-home order from the state or from the local county authorities, please call 311. We do have an active unit at the district attorney's office that is following up on those complaints. They're finding often that when the complaints are made, more often than not, that the business is complying with the order. It's an essential service of some kind or another. But when they're not complying, then they're following up and directing them to comply, and obviously informing them that the local authorities will be notified. And ultimately, we're getting compliance that way. And we know this is an education effort. We're going to need to ensure that everybody understands what activity is permitted and what's not, and that's not always clear to folks, and we want to do everything we can to educate. But in the meantime, we will be following up, and then eventually there will be significant enforcement. And so we just want everyone to continue in the spirit that we have been proceeding under in the last few days. We know this is a difficult time, and we appreciate the public's continued cooperation and support with our efforts to keep all of us safe and healthy. And no further ado, I just want to introduce our fantastic police chief here in the city of San Jose. We're blessed to have the best police chief in the country, Eddie Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. And for everybody, I just want to give a quick update on what we're doing from an enforcement perspective with regards to the ordinance or the order. Obviously, in light of the governor's news yesterday and what we've been doing here locally, your police department's been very busy. Yes, this is an additional job that the department's doing, but I wanted to go over some statistics and our plan moving forward. You know, we officially started the compliance cars on swing shift March 19th. After the order was initially issued, that went into effect at midnight. We started officially deploying what we call health order compliance cars on day shift on Wednesday, March 19th. We currently deploy 4 two-officer cars on day shift and 4 two-officer cars on swing shift. Day shift runs from 10 to 3 and swings from 4:30 to 10:30, and cars work in all the divisions. The main purpose of the cars is to proactively seek non-essential businesses who remain open in violation of the health order. Officers also respond to complaints and calls through our dispatch center that have been vetted using the health order criteria. Officers make contact at businesses, identify those responsible, give them a copy of the health order, and explain its purpose. At this point, this is more educational in nature with voluntary compliance. We have not run into non-compliance, but should this happen, a district supervisor would be called and appropriate actions would then be made. We're currently tracking contacted businesses and checking for continued compliance. Our current plan is to move from, those of you that know me, we're not going to stay educational for long. If people aren't paying attention to this. Our current plan is to move from an educational stance to an enforcement stance on any business that has been contacted, warned, and then reopens. We're looking to begin that enforcement next week. We have several remedies to include criminal citation, business license sanctions, and health code violations. We have been in contact with various city and county departments to explore some of these options. Again, I'll tell you, we don't want to go there, but again, after the educational portion of this is over, we need to all as a community and as a police department, and quite frankly, police departments in the state need to treat this as seriously as it is. I'm going to give you some examples, or actually some numbers. We have some updated numbers, but as of yesterday, there were 56 violations throughout the city of these orders. And you know, approximately this is what we found. There were 2 repair shops, 3 restaurants, 2 clothing stores, 9 hair salons, 6 barber shops, 8 smoke shops, 2 flower shops, 3 gyms, 1 sporting goods store, 1 video game store, 1 billiards hall, 1 gun store, 1 recycling center, 1 furniture store, 1 flea market, and 1 car wash. One thing that I want to make certain, that I know there's been fear out in the community, immediately after this order was out and was given, I put out a policy prohibiting our police officers from making detentions solely based on this order, meaning car stops or pedestrian stops. We're not doing this solely based on this order. That is not what we're doing in San Jose. Considering the broad spectrum of legitimate reasons for which any person may leave residential isolation, we considered it unreasonable to suspect that persons are violating the order merely because they're outside of residential isolation. So we did that for our officers as well. We'll continue with this enforcement going into next week, but that pretty much sums it up. I guess we'll open it up to some questions.
Is there an effort to do greater enforcement beyond the police department that you've heard of from the governor? I know you've got your 4 cars out there with 4 cars bringing 10 or using different types of police apparatus, and is there a plan, at least in the works, to have the guard patrolling sectors of the city, if not all over?
Well, I'll say 2 things. I hope to God we never get to a place where we have the National Guard patrolling our cities. I hope to God we don't get to that place. I have not heard that yet, and I'll sit here and I would imagine any police chief in the state would tell you the same thing. With regards to our enforcement, yeah, we're being very proactive. I will tell you, listen, those numbers that I gave you, we have a lot more businesses in this city that are compliant. So let's keep our eye on the ball on that. We're going to be proactive about it, but obviously, if people see businesses are open, we are telling everyone to call our non-emergency line, 311. And I will again say, please do not call 911 with these issues. Call 311, and we're going to deal with those as we deal like with any other call for service. And so I'll tell you what, I like to think not only do I have my proactive police officers looking at open businesses, but we have 1.1 million residents in this city that could also help us out if they see something irresponsible.
Maybe I could
Please,
jump
Mayor.
in. Yeah, and I should also note Dave Sykes, of course, our city manager, is here also, who's been doing an incredible job managing all the city operations and our emergency efforts. With regard to National Guard, I know that there have been reports National Guard has been deployed to many cities to help with, for example, food distribution, other emergency services. Obviously, we would be informing you well in advance if there were actual enforcement responsibilities. There have been no such deployments here or in the region, to my knowledge, for that purpose. But you may see National Guard and state services of various kinds, not for enforcement.
Aren't you encouraging a flood of calls to 311 by, I don't want to call them goody two-shoes, but people just presuming that someone is violating the orders when they're not?
That's a great question. And again, we have to err on the side of caution, but we need to, there are irresponsible operators. And so one of the dynamics that we have with 311, and we thank God that through the city manager's office and in a push from the mayor and the rest of council with regards to our new 311 system, that our 911 dispatchers and call takers aren't going to get inundated. And obviously, if there are, it was one of the things, and I've told as I've had meetings with our patrol supervisors throughout this crisis, their job, the role of a patrol sergeant has always been the most important role in police departments, and it continues to be. And they're going to be very, very important as they triage these calls that we're getting from our community.
What are the businesses telling your office?
You know what is interesting is I was getting in uniform this morning. I ran into one of my officers that's working these details. And I'll tell you what, Damien, it's sad. There's businesses that are just telling our officers that they don't know how they're going to pay the bills, that they don't know how long they're going to keep the lights on. This is a concern that obviously it's not anything that we don't know, but it's a reality. And obviously it touches our officers. They have much empathy, but at the same time, they have a role and a job to do. But those are realities. And let's not, I want everyone to take a deep breath, but I think our officers understand as this prolongs, that desperation could get worse. And our officers may be called to do more. And so we're mindful of that. We want to keep our community apprised of what's going on. But I'm hopeful that our leaders will come up with ways to alleviate some of those concerns that our officers are hearing at some point. And I hope this entire community just bonds together and we get through this together.
Where in fact, if you're going to have a kind of a culture where people are snitching on each other?
Well, you know, I think that culture, I don't know if snitching has such a negative connotation. I think if someone's breaking the law as a police department, I want to be told when that happens. You know, so, you know, I don't know if we're going to build a culture of that. I will tell you, our systems haven't been inundated with these type of calls. So I certainly don't want to cause a mass panic. I'm not here saying that everyone's up in arms and we're getting calls and our dispatchers are getting inundated and our officers are solely just responding to this. That is not what's happening. We just want to be proactive. We're taking this seriously. My officers are taking this seriously. And the vast majority of the city of San Jose is taking this seriously. Mayor,
just
please.
offer a quick response. Yeah, you know, we should put this in context. It has always been the case that the police department has depended upon the eyes and ears of the public as the most effective weapon against crime. That is, the reports we get from our residents enable us to respond. And that's true, obviously, in this public health crisis as well. And so, yes, we're going to depend on the public. And no, it's not snitching. It's simply informing authorities to ensure that we can all be safe. And this is about all of us pulling together. We're not looking to have anyone undermine their neighbor. We're not looking for anyone to do anything that will lead to conflict, simply to ensure that we can respond, check in with the business. If the business is performing an essential function, they'll continue their operations. And the majority of folks we've been talking to, we've been following up on. The district attorney's office has been leading that effort. They're finding people are complying. And so we're going to do this in a collaborative way. But I would remind everyone that 911 is for the burning building, 311 is for the burning question. This is a 311 issue.
Have you had people call 311 to report individuals, not businesses, but maybe groups of individuals playing basketball or doing something that is obvious?
We have. Well, I'll tell you this. I'm sure those. I'm not going to. I don't know for certain. I would imagine we have had those calls, and I can tell you that our officers actually have broken up gatherings such as that. You know, lost in all this, I'll say again, is the tremendous work that our men and women are doing on a daily basis. This is yet again an added responsibility to the members of this police department. I have said many times that they will rise to this challenge. They not only will rise to this challenge, they have risen to this challenge. And the proactive nature of this department continues to shine. These men and women should be commended, and they're going to continue to do so.
Chief, the shelter-in-place order is about a week old now. Can you talk about your thought progression in getting to this point where we are today versus when Sarah Cody announced it last week? What have you know, at first, were you giving people a chance?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, like I said, our plan was educational in nature. We knew, as an example, you know, we had that incident with the gun store owner recently, where when we made contact, there was no malicious intent. You know, there was some questions as to whether or not who they should listen to. Department of Justice, the local ordinance, what have you. We had to do education. That's going to happen. That's happening in a lot of stores. There's a lot of places that aren't operating under malicious intent. However, I mentioned a store right now, a billiards hall. Are you kidding me? I mean, I don't know how a billiards hall thought that they could be open through this time, right? So as we go through this educational perspective, education is going to turn into enforcement very soon as we continue to see people, you know, snub their nose at this ordinance. And so we started from an educational perspective and moving to enforcement again. But I will tell you, one thing that we proactively did is ensuring, you know, that our community knew that we weren't going to. It was very important to me and the department that our community members knew that police officers weren't going to be using this ordinance as a means of simple detention, and that was really important. So that's actually one of the first things that we pushed out as a department, is that policy, and then we went from there.
So with the interaction between your officers and the public, are you using at this point or thinking of using public address to clear the streets, anything like that?
No, we're not there yet. I mean, and I'll tell you this. I mean, those are all tactics. Again, I'm not going to tell you that if an officer's downtown, for example, and sees a large gathering, that they may not say that. Okay, I'll repeat what our goals are. Our goals are this, with this perspective. If there's a red curb, if there's a red zone, we hope that most responsible residents aren't going to park in a red zone. And for those that do, when an officer comes by and tells them you need to go, they're going to move. And for the few that say, yeah, whatever, and stay, well, that's probably not going to be very positive. And there's going to be more enforcement taken. And so, but that's going to be few. I really truly feel there's going to be few and far between, and that's where our mind's at right now.
Chief, just to clarify, you start off the list of the businesses that your officers have been in contact with. You said two repair shops.
Yeah.
What kind of repair shops were they?
I don't know exactly what they were.
Could I offer a little clarification on
Because
that?
automobile
Yeah.
repair shop is
'Cause-
considered essential under the federal.
Yeah, we've had these conversations with county council, and an auto repair or bike repair shop is an essential function, so that would be permitted. I assume he's referring to other repair shops.
Chief, it's going to be a Friday night tonight. Are you concerned people will be indoors all week? Or on Friday night?
About being indoors, but obviously, yeah, we are concerned. You know what? Earlier in the week, I sat with a marriage and family counselor to talk about some techniques that our families can use, because you know what? My family's home. My kids are home from college and they're home. And I tell you what, just because I'm the chief doesn't mean that I don't have to use some techniques at home myself to make sure things are calm. And that's a reality that all of our families are dealing with. And so, yeah, there is some concern about it. And so we're hoping that everybody can take a deep breath, use some techniques, and just understand the gravity of what's going on. And as the governor mentioned, let's be big in this moment and get through this. But you know what? It's my concerns aren't necessarily so much in the street as there will be, in homes. And that's something that we need to continue to look at. And so we'll deal with that as it comes.
So a warning first and then enforcement for every business?
Again, I'm not going to carte blanche and say how we're going to do for every single one. We could be next week, could be 2 weeks from now, there could be another business, and that didn't have malicious intent. Listen, the role of the police officer, especially in San Jose, the discretion that they use, that's not going away. Not going away at all. So, we'll deal with that. We're just simply saying that